It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, everybody. I am Cathey Armillas.
And I am Marc Williams. Welcome to It's About to Go Down. And today, every day is special and it's about to go down. But for me, anytime we open up the hallowed halls of Brooklyn Technical High School, and let me add this, anytime we open up the hallowed halls of New York University, that's right, classmate on 2 levels. This is Cathey Roberts. Oh man, you got so many different letters that come beyond your name, but the 4 letters that really stick out to me right now are K-I-N-D. Because Cathey Roberts brings kind counseling, and that's not just a phrase, but that's the organization and the movement that he has brought forward to help people with their mental stability and mental health. But the idea, Cathey, that you want to talk to us about today is this observation that when people think about mental health, they only kind of look at it from one angle. Right. And you believe that mental health is really this one-stop shop of physical, spiritual, mental, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So Cathey Roberts, welcome to It's About to Go Down, and talk to us about why mental health should really be this one-stop shop.
All right. Marc, I always love your energy, man. You always got energy, even on a Friday afternoon. You always got energy. Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me here. Cathey, nice to meet you again. You know, I just over the years, even before I did kind counseling, I was involved in various organizations, and I found that people would come in for, to see a therapist or a counselor, because they were stressed out. But the reason that they were stressed out had to do with a whole wide range of things, right? So yes, you can talk to them about it, but eventually you ended up sending them to somewhere else or referring them, as they say, or suggesting that they get involved in other things. So my idea was, why not have it all in the same place so the person doesn't have to go across town or make a phone call? It could just be go downstairs and, somebody will take care of it, right? So that was my idea, to have all of the services that people would need in one place, so that it'd just be easier to meet their needs and help to alleviate the stress that they may be experiencing.
Interesting.
Cathey, I'm going to ask a question, maybe out of ignorance, but just really maybe from a logistical standpoint. Why do you think it hasn't been that way in the past?
I don't know, because people don't know how to play in the sandbox together. That's the only thing I could. Actually, I want to say about 7 years ago, I floated this idea to 4 of my friends or guys or colleagues, and they pretty much all said it was a great idea, but they were too busy to do it. So I said, well, I spoke to my mentor. My mentor said, well, why do you need them? Why don't you just do it yourself? Just do the idea yourself. So it's, I think for a combination of reasons. Sometimes people don't have the time, or people like the stability of like a 9-to-5 job. So it's hard for them to think outside the box as well. So I think you kind of have to have the spirit of an entrepreneur also to start something like this. Like people who have vision and can think outside of the box, right? Because I think most people are just comfortable with, things just being like status quo.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, Marc.
No. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay, so for me, it's I've been in the field I stopped counting at 25. I know it's
25 plus.
Right, it's close to 30, right? So, and I just see inevitably, if I'm talking to somebody about trauma that they experienced, they're not going to the gym, right? Or they have financial issues, or it's they want to go further in school, or or their children are suffering, or whatever it might be. And my thought was, like I said, rather than me having to, you know, send them across town, so to speak, or find another place. And also, when you send them to another place, you're not sure what kind of service they're going to get, right? So if I'm the person that's spearheading this, I'm going to make sure that it's quality care that they're getting, and not to say that other places don't have it, but that's something that I would want to be, sure of.
I'm thinking about, as you speak, not only from the provider perspective, but I'm thinking from the perspective of somebody who they say that they've dealt with trauma.
Right.
And it sounds like, I don't know where I'm getting this number from, 9 times out of 10, people think that their trauma is just a mental health issue.
Right.
Mm.
So from the perspective, not from the provider yet, I want to come back to that, but from the perspective of the general population, why do you think we only connect trauma with mental health?
I mean, I think that's a very good question. I think the short answer is media. Just in terms of we see it on social media, we see it on mainstream media, and the idea is that, like you said, it's all about mental health, but people can be traumatized in other ways. I mean, even like something like physically, like where you live, or even moving, you know, um, those type of things impact you greatly, or even your health, if you have a disability, I mean, there's just different ways that it comes in, and people can be traumatized. It could be spiritual, so it's I think I do think that obviously mentally that's where we start, because we feel the stress most that way, right? So that's also a part of it, but it can spread to different parts of your parts of your life. I mean, inevitably, if you're having mental health issues, and there's a possibility, like for example, when I meet people, and I always have to explain this to the ladies, that I always ask, within the last 6 months, like, how much weight have you gained or lost? Right? And women always ask me, like, well, why you want to know my weight? Right? So I'm like, because when people are depressed, they gain weight or they lose weight, right? So approximately how much do you weigh? Right? So, it's inevitably it just leaks over into other things.
Mm. So, Cami, let me understand this a little deeper too. When you
Yeah.
say you want to have everything in one space, what are those everythings? Like, what are you thinking?
So I have my list here. So I think this was I'd say probably at least 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. I was just like, sometimes I do like meditation, like spiritual meditation, and like in the mornings. And if you want to say, I had somewhat of a vision as to what this could possibly be. And I looked at it as a place that could have a spiritual component, an educational component, a physical, like fitness kind of component, nutritional, financial, holistic, like in terms of holistic doctors slash psychiatrists. And then the last one, which recently I came up with, was the vocational part, right? So like job training and entrepreneurial skills, that kind of stuff, right? So obviously we're talking about a huge building, right? Right? So, and the idea is to, get people who are possibly to either like be consultants, and then they would come in at different times and perform their functions, right? So, and people who are passionate about their job, because not everybody is passionate, right? There are a lot of people who are just there because it's a nice check, and that's really it. So I'm really big on people being passionate about their work, because it's easy, you easily see, like when you go to the doctor, is this a doctor that just is checking off boxes, or one who is really trying to help?
It seems like what you're trying to put together is like this dream team, right? It's kind of this team or this, of all of these components, and maybe not everybody would need all those components, but
Exactly.
yet, and then maybe there's even some that aren't included, but yet this is a good chunk of people not having to leave that kind of unit or that space. It's a pretty cool idea. It seems like if you can figure out the logistical part of of like who
Mhm.
are those right people who would be more passionate about it, who would want to work on a team and understand that how many of there are there? One, two, three, four, five, six. I think I wrote down seven, but
Right.
there's seven or eight, something like that. Is that right?
Seven.
Seven?
Seven.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
I was like, did I miss one?
Right.
It seems like if you have like these seven different areas, um, I don't know. It seems like everybody's work in all those areas would be different too. For instance, if you're the fitness
Mhm.
person, well,
Right.
you even just said it, right, Cami? You're like, I'm trying to talk to women and be like, hey, you don't have to tell me exactly what you weigh, but it's kind of getting into because you're stepping into more of that nutritional and fitness and,
Exactly. Right.
active lifestyle. And
Right.
it seems like if the whole unit was working the way it should,
Right.
everybody would be doing that. Are you meditating? How's your spiritual life?
Right.
Are you
Right.
talking to somebody about problems that you're feeling? Whatever.
Right. But well, I mean, and I think like you're saying, it's just like if you go to the, I don't know, let's say you're an investor, right, the stock market,
Mhm.
and I mean, I spoke to a guy not too long ago, said he lost $100,000, right? So for most people, that's a lot of money,
Mhm.
so that can be pretty depressing, you know. So so let's say you came in here and you said, I want to deal with my finances, but at the same time, the person's feeling depressed. I worked my whole life, savings, feeling really bad about things, right? And we can send you upstairs to maybe you get short-term therapy, right? So, and as a result of, let's say as a result of this financial loss, you go back to a problem that you had in the past, which was overeating, right? So maybe the nutritionist can get you back on track,
Mm.
right? So that's what I mean by, and the thing is that for years in doing this, you just see that these things are all connected, right? And even if you look in your own life, right, how things tend to function, your mental health is really like related to like every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
You know, here's what is coming up for me. Dream team is what Cathey called it.
Right.
And then I think about how you said, Cami, your mentor was like, well, listen, why can't you just do it yourself? And yet it's interesting because at the end of the day, doing it yourself still means assembling a dream team, right? You
Right.
still need a bunch of different people who are passionate about this. And one of the things I heard you say earlier is,
Mhm.
but the time seems to be an issue. And that's why it's hard to get people. So I'm wondering, what could be the thing that supersedes the concerns about time that would make these people want to come together for this one-stop shop for these seven elements? Because I know you're trying to convince people to come along.
Mhm.
What have they not heard yet that makes this a have to, a must to?
That's a that's a good that's a really good question. But I think, but Mark, I think ultimately that's why I said I think you got to find people who are passionate about what they're doing, right? Because it's kind of like nobody has to like wake me up. Like I'm a therapist, but I also own a practice, a group practice, right? So nobody has to wake me up and say, "Hey, come on, man, let's go. You got to go counsel people." I can do that in my sleep, right? I love counseling people, right? But if you tell me, well, we got some administrative work to do, and We got some taxes we got to look at. That you got to have to drag me. Okay. So in my mind, so because I'm passionate about that, right? Like I always tell people I could do it for free, right? Obviously I have to eat, but that's how much I love, helping people. But so if I find like-minded people, like I said, it's something that you're passionate about, you know, people usually have to tell you to stop doing something when you're passionate, not try to convince you, right? So,
Yeah.
like you're doing that too much or you need to take a break, right? So my hope is that, and it's not always easy, Mark, because obviously people sell themselves on an interview, right? And they can convince you of a lot of things. But ultimately, when I speak to people that are passionate about something, I mean, you guys know if I ask you something that you're passionate, like when I ask you about speaking, your whole face lights up and you're like, hey, all right, all the energy comes out. All right. Cathey, I don't know you well enough to know yet, but
Yeah, I think you got my number.
there you go. Right. So when people are passionate, it just comes right out.
Mm.
Right. So it's you don't have to like twist their arm and put a gun to their head. It's usually they're excited.
Mm.
Mm. I feel like it would be a fun project just from a standpoint of that, like you have this really great idea and you're pretty passionate about the idea, clearly. Um, you think it will be really, it probably would be a fun thing to do. And by fun, I just mean that it would be a very productive thing. It seems like it would be like as I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, it might be kind of fun to try to like piece this together. Like I'd be like, ooh, who are the 5 most spiritual people that I know that could help other people in the spiritual space, right? Who are the
Mm.
people in the nutrition space or something? Like I would literally be going, hey, if I am putting together this dream team that's going to go to the Olympics, who do I want to come with me?
Right. Right. Wow. Hmm. Well, you give me an idea already. Right. Right.
No, that's good. It seems like it would be really fun to even start bringing these people in the same room and having a conversation and just being like, "Hey, this is my vision, and I
Mm.
I invited you all here just to like as a opening discussion
Right.
and to see where it goes or something." I don't know. It just seems like it'd be fun to try to piece that together.
Yeah. And thank you guys again for having me because I think the more I talk about it, the more you guys ask me questions. I'm thinking about things that I haven't thought. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's maybe that might be my next step to to start gathering people. So the other thing is also so I moved not too long ago, like out of New York, right? So I'm still trying to get a lay of the land, in terms of where I moved to, Delaware, right? So it's I kind of am trying to get a feel of, because in New York you could just walk up to people, start a conversation, like yeah, and they know you like I think they knew you 10 years or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
People in Delaware are a little more cautious and they're kind of side-eyeing you like you're a New York hustler or something. You know what I mean? So,
That's
uh, uh,
funny.
you know, so it's I'm still trying to get a lay of the land and see how things operate a little bit, and then I could, Cathey, definitely hear you on that. Start gathering people,
Mm.
you know.
That might be a way to meet people though in Delaware too, is to like have this initiative of that you want to do, that you're like you want to talk, you want to bring a bunch of professional people in this space together to have a conversation about what would it look like if we came together and did something. I don't know, I feel like people are, especially like you said, Cami, people that are really passionate about the thing that they do,
Right,
they like that's exciting to them. If you came to Mark and I and said, speaking is one of these elements, we're like, yeah, we
right,
agree. How can
exactly,
you be a mentally healthy person if you're not speaking well?
right, right, exactly, exactly.
I'm thinking of we had a guy, John McSherry, who was on our show a while ago, who was in the real estate. And one of the things I admire about John is he makes it a habit of meeting new people all
Mm,
the
mhm,
time,
mhm.
right? Like when he goes to his neighborhood coffee shop, he makes it a goal to start up a conversation with somebody new. Because his theory in the world of real estate is everybody knows somebody who's looking to buy, rent, or sell.
That's fair.
I would probably argue that everybody knows somebody who needs spiritual, educational, physical, nutritional, financial, holistic, or vocational help. And so maybe the search in a non-New York area, maybe it doesn't start with the 5 best. Maybe you know that ultimately the 5 best in each area is what you're looking for, but maybe the search starts because you're in a different area. Maybe it starts with just having this conversation with a bunch of people about what the idea is, and then seeing how those initial conversations may then lead you to those 5 people. You know, if I may add this one last thing connected to it, one of my, I can't think of the name of the podcast right now, but I remember listening to the story of Soul Cycle. And one of the things I remember hearing is the 3 women who started it, one of them said she'd be on the city bus and just strike up conversations with people just about this idea. And it was a way, one, to let people know, but it was also a way to engage people and find out what they think and who they might know. And you just never know. So I offer that to you as there must be a coffee shop somewhere. There must be some place where you can start these conversations that will lead you to the 5 best in each of those areas.
I like that. I don't drink coffee, but I like it.
Neither do I.
Neither do I. 3 of us. That's wild.
Yeah, that is wild.
That is wild, actually.
And that is actually really wild because most people do drink coffee, so that's kind of wild. Yeah, you know what I love about that, Mark, is that, one thing that businesses that are really successful, one thing that they have in common, like Amazon's been known for this, right? Is that every product or everything that they've ever done it was about beta testing, not just assuming what the client would or wouldn't buy, but just like putting it out there and making an elaborate test to see actually what would work. And so the woman with Soul Cycle that was going around talking, she was doing more than just drumming up interest. She was really she's seeing in real time without having to invest money, time, or space at that point, just conversation. How does this land with people? How do people think? And I feel like there's 2 sides to that conversation, Cammie. One side is from the professional services side, right? And then the other side is from the clients of that, the people that would be engaging with those services.
Okay. All right.
So some of those conversations could be fun. Like, what would you think of a place? Like I have this whole dream. I have this idea of, Mark, I know I've told you about it before. I just have really geeked out on my sleep in the last couple of years, and I want to have really good quality sleep. So I wear like my Garmin watch. I track it and everything. And I thought we have spas for everything. What if we had a spa for a sleep spa? Like it's just an idea that I had, And so there was a while there when I was talking to people and I was like, what do you think? And people that don't sleep well, of course, are like, oh my God, that's a great idea.
Right. Of course.
Right. But then there was another side of it was like, oh, but you'd probably have to hire people that were experts in sleep. And like, you'd have to figure, right. There's another side to it. So there's a side that's the functional operational side. And then there's a side of people that would consume it.
Yeah, I like that. Everyone, actually, I was just talking to my daughter this afternoon, and I was just saying to her, how I like every time I go somewhere, I like talking to people, right? So it's this is something that I think I can definitely do in terms of engaging people around us, as well as people in professional capacities who might be able to give some feedback. So definitely, I'm hearing the 2 of you very clearly. I'm hearing the 2 of you. So it's and sometimes I think that when we have ideas in our mind, in our head, like we can talk ourselves out of it really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like what you're saying is actual feedback, because sometimes we don't, I mean, we just we have blind spots, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So it's I think that like let me give you a quick example. Like before I started my own practice, I worked at an agency and I always had a problem with the way they ran stuff, right? And because it wasn't ran very efficiently. And the
Mm-hmm.
people that worked there, they always kept saying to me, Cammy, why don't you just open up your own practice or your own business? And I was
Yeah.
like, nah, like I didn't pay it any mind because I was programmed to think you got to have a job, right?
Mm.
So, but I can't tell you how many people said that, and I just kind of pushed it away and didn't even pay attention to it, right? So I think it's always good to hear another person's perspective rather than just your own.
Yeah. That reminds me of have either one of you read the book Shoe Dog?
No.
It's Phil Knight's book about Nike,
Okay.
starting Nike.
Okay.
It's really
What's the
interesting.
name?
Shoe Dog.
Oh, shoot dog.
Yeah, it's really interesting because what Nike would go, there's a funny point, like if you think about it. Here's like the line before Nike and after Nike, right?
Mm,
And before Nike, there's like all these struggles and all these things that Phil Knight had to do. And then there was a moment where he started gaining some momentum and then went backwards a little bit. And
mm,
and I was just thinking about the trajectory of an idea. And there was this one point in the book where he's just like his dad begged him, please, like I can hook you up with getting a job back in the financial industry.
right,
Like, please, this is nonsense.
right,
This company's not doing anything. Nike wouldn't be born. And I'm sure there's so many other companies out there like
right.
that where it started with other people giving perspective that didn't really have the feedback, right?
Mm, mm,
And so if you have these conversations, you get to have like real feedback from real people that would really either buy it or they wouldn't. Or, I don't know. I just feel like there's a way to make things happen. And I'm sure that's why entrepreneurs have to be as solid as a brick. Because sometimes you just have to like, the whole world is like, nope, just
right,
doesn't sound like a great idea.
right,
Doesn't sound like it would work.
right,
And then
right.
people make it work. So I don't know, that's the part that I would be really geeking out on is like, okay, awesome. I have this great idea. And how do I execute it? How do I make it come to life?
I was as you were talking, the thought that came to my mind is to go to an old folks home. Like I guess there's a
Mm.
more politically correct now term.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Retirement facility or
something, right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
I'm not the
yeah.
most politically correct guy, so unfortunately. So because they're not gonna lie to you, right? They're gonna tell you just like it is. They have nothing to lose, right? So
Yeah.
and they have a lot of time on their hands, and they're
Yeah.
always looking to engage people, right?
That's a good
So
idea. I like
I mean,
that.
it's just an idea, but as you were talking, that just came to my mind.
I like that.
You know,
I like that too, and it's got me wondering, um, whether it's in a nursing facility or somewhere else, what would you say? Because I know as I listen to you talk about this,
mm,
it's not simply about having everything in just one facility, because
mm.
that can sound like, well, that's just convenience, right? So I don't have to get on
Right,
the bus and go somewhere.
right,
It's about so much more than that. So can
right.
you just speak for a moment, like whether you're talking to us or talking to the nursing home or anybody else, like beyond the convenience of having everything in one space,
Right.
what are some of the most essential benefits of having everything in one space?
Well, I mean, like you said, I think the most important thing is probably the convenience, right? But I think that it's kind of like if you go somewhere, right, and you trust, like, let's say your barber, your beautician. Mark, you still going to a barber?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, I am.
Hey, I had a bald head for a few years, so no worries, man. No worries. Anyway, all right. So it's like if you go to your barber, right? And and you trust your barber, you've been going to your barber for 10 years, and your barber says, listen, I know this doctor that you should go to, man. He's going to help you with that thing that you're looking for, right? It's kind of like a system of trust also, right? Where you know that if you go to that place right there, they're going to take care of you, right? Also, just a matter of, I think trust is a big thing with in terms of relationships, especially in therapy, right? So I would never send my client to somewhere where I didn't feel comfortable, like in terms of getting them help for something, right? Because I mean, that's just like in terms of my conscience or in terms of integrity. I just don't push people out just like that. If I can't help you, I say I can't help you, right? So I think if you are able to build a network where people know that if you go to that place, they're going to take care of it, right? Whether it's finances, whether it's this, whether it's that, I think that that's a great selling point that that you have trustworthy people who I can send my grandma there or I can send my teenage son there because I know they're going to take care of it, right? So that's something that I'm very big on, right? So even in terms of my own practice, I may not know as much as the next therapist, but when you come to my office, you know that you're going to hear the truth and you're going to get what's in your best interest.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I got to detour for a second and talk about our hollowed halls, the blue and white. Here's why. Because we know it's an awesome school, right? And when you just said that, it made me think, like, I would recommend to any parent that their child take the test and try to go. Why? Because of the education, the safety,
Right.
the connections. Like there's a string of things there. And you and I both know, because we graduated from tech,
Right.
Tech, unlike any other high school, is almost like we talk about tech the way people talk about their college, right? And when people
Right.
talk about their college or their fraternity or their sorority, they're
Right.
talking about a lifetime community. And Cathey, I'm using that word intentionally because you and I know, right? Speaker Skills Academy is all about community.
Right.
When you talked about this system or this network of trust,
Mm-hmm.
what I heard was this is not just a one-stop shop. This is not just a building where everybody comes. This is a community. And in this community, you get the spiritual, the education, the list goes on. You get that's why you need to come here. Because everybody gets you.
Oh,
I like that.
I love this so much. By the way, I just have to show you that.
What's that? Look at that.
Come on, Cathey.
Wait. You didn't go to Brooklyn Tech though, right?
I know I didn't go to Brooklyn Tech. Mark gave this to me when I visited Brooklyn Tech one time and I spoke at the school, and he gave this to me as a gift. So I have my Brooklyn Tech swag.
Quick, can I say a quick story before you ask your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sitting in I used to go to this church in Brooklyn, right? And the pastor said it was a visiting pastor, right? He was in Jersey. He came and he said, "Yeah, I went to Brooklyn Tech," and immediately like 10 people said, "Yeah!" And the guy said, he's like, "Everywhere I go, if you're from Tech, people just like, you know." Anyway, sorry to
like a college alumni. You're right.
Right.
No, that's so good. I love that because it's a sense of pride. Mark told me the other day just to go down that Brooklyn Tech road for another minute.
Sure. I
didn't realize it was the largest school in the United States and maybe the world. Like, I don't know. It's just I mean, I knew how big the building was, but like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. There's a sense of pride. And I want to talk about that for a second, because now what you're talking about, Mark, is a sense of pride. When you belong to a community, you feel a sense of pride for being part of that community. And maybe, Cammie, what you're talking about building could be built easier if you view it like Mark said it, where it's more of a community-based thing, where we have these 7 pillars or these
Mm,
7 principles or these seven. I mean, I think pillars are probably better, right? Because you're saying that in order to have a holistic experience in your life, these things need to be pretty well balanced. And anybody that comes into the community as
mm,
a consumer again of it
right.
knows that they're stepping into that. Anybody from the professional services side also knows that they're interlinked with the other six pillars.
Right.
So,
Right.
Mark, if we were part of a community and we were like, oh yeah, these are all the things that you would need, like maybe it's a community of people that, wanted to be performers, and storytelling and speaking is just one little spoke of it.
Mm,
We understand that there's the other pieces to it.
right. Right.
That's exciting. And it's
Yeah.
more,
Yeah.
it seems more doable than like trying to think of and I know maybe you weren't thinking of a location, because the
Mm,
community could be online or whatever. But when you start to remove the borders a little bit, and you give everybody
mm,
the sense of the same, you create this thing. Everybody that comes into that community immediately knows that you're either part of that or you're not. Like you either like you're
mm,
you're, you're part of that whole system. And I could see from being like a consumer of that and being in that community, being like, oh, I love this. I'm in a place where I can talk to people about my mental health and get the whole,
mm,
get that piece of it. I can connect with people on nutrition and fitness and vocation,
mm.
spirituality.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That's exciting. I'm excited about it. That's cool.
Good. Okay. Okay. Well, I actually, once again, as you're talking, you said online. I hadn't even considered that. I
Mm,
was thinking people just coming in person, but you have a much wider audience, obviously, with online, and there can be an online community as well.
yeah.
I hadn't even considered that. I just looked at it as like a physical building and,
Yeah.
people coming there. Wow.
Yeah, I think online would open, sorry, Mark, I know you're going to say something. Yeah, I just think online would open it up a lot more, and
Yes.
you could still have walls around it, but the walls are just further out.
Right. 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 Wow.
Um,
See, what? Well, I think like what's happening right now is exactly why you need to talk to other people.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? No, I'm serious.
No,
yeah.
that's true.
Because you guys could also say, Cammy, that's not a good idea. Like, stop.
Mm,
So,
No, here's one thing I think I would always want people to know about the types of conversations we have. First of all, I think Cathey always puts it so beautifully. There's no such thing as a bad idea, right?
mm,
Um, and my thought is we just have to figure out how to make it work, right?
mm,
That's it. We just have to figure out how to make it work. And
yeah.
as you were talking, one thing that came to my mind, just to elaborate a little bit more on the community, to me, it's almost a metaphor.
mm,
Sometimes when you're dealing with trauma,
mm.
you can feel alone. You
True.
can feel like you're the only one going through it and there's nobody out there.
Mm,
And this whole concept that you're talking about in terms of our health,
right.
like when we know that we're not alone, we're in such a better place. Well, then when you take each of these components that are often placed alone and
Mm,
you put them together,
mm,
that's so much more of a stronger
right.
foundation. And I
Right.
think that's Cathey always talks about, I love this, Cathey, you always talk about, especially studying all these TED Talks. Sometimes the magic pill in an idea is exposing either the myth or the misconception or the misdirection.
Mm,
Yeah.
A lot of people think that mental health is
right.
just about mental
Right.
health.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh, well
Right.
said.
Right.
That's a good line, by the way. That's a really good
I appreciate
line.
it.
Cammie, write that down.
T-shirts. Right.
Tammy, I'm also wondering,
Yeah.
and you're the expert in this area, so I don't know, right? I'm just thinking about being an educator.
Right.
In a school building, the great thing is I'm working with a team of guidance counselors, and I might be the English teacher, but the math teacher also knows little Cathey, and the science teacher knows little Cathey, and Cathey was in my class last year. So we all can have conversations about what you experienced with Cathey last year.
Right.
And now I know that information so that I can help Cathey, right? And so I think that's another big part of that community, that I'm not going here and here. And now I got to explain my whole history all over again to somebody else.
Right.
I just don't know in your line of work, even in community, because I know about confidentiality, right?
Right. Right.
How would that work?
Well, it's well, when you start therapy, you have to sign like a confidentiality, right? So it's but the thing is also that as a staff, you meet to discuss cases, right? So that's something that's that like you would say to a client if you go, if they're coming into a group practice, that we do meet, we would discuss cases that way. But just in terms of to have more than one pair of eyes on the situation, right? Or to give somebody feedback. So it's like, for example, like we have families that come to us sometimes where I'm meeting with the parents, another therapist is meeting with the son, one's meeting with the daughter. So if we don't get together and have conversations, we could be doing things like very, like in opposition to the success of this family, right? So to answer your question, like, so we have these conversations to say, oh, that's what he said? Okay, I thought it was something else. Okay, all right. So that's why he's so angry, so, and it makes the process so much shorter, right? So imagine having, a place where, I could say, let's say it was your speaker academy involved with it, right? And I said, Mark, he's a little shy because X, Y, and Z happened. It's not because he doesn't like you, right? It's because this happened, right? So, it just shortens the process when you have that community. Another thing I would say also is just quickly, like for example, like we have groups, right? And I say to my clients all the time that your life will change much faster and more dramatically if you go to a group as opposed to if you come to me for therapy, right? Most therapists won't say that because sometimes it's about income or whatever, right? I say to them, listen, I am telling you, I can't do what you can get. I can't give you what you can get in that, right? Because you have 10 guys that are there supporting you and pushing you to be the best version of yourself. I can't match that, right? So I'm glad you're using the word community. Like that's very powerful.
Yeah, that's powerful what you're saying too, Cammie. Like, to me, that's such a high level of professional integrity, to really want what's best for somebody is actually going outside of what you can provide them. That it opened my eyes to a little bit more of how generous and awesome that is for people that would be a part of that community.
Right. Yeah.
I love the line, your life will change dramatically.
Yeah.
You are a part of a group.
I felt that when he said it, I got chills. I felt that.
Well, let me ask. Well, one of the big challenges with the pandemic was that people were so isolated, right? And now you have people that are afraid almost to socialize or because they were separated for so long, right? For different reasons, right? So it's you find people that now they just want to stay home and do everything. How many people that they just shop online? They don't go to the mall. They don't go to the supermarket, right? Everything is just convenient, but they're missing the social interaction, right?
Introverts unite, right? All
Exactly.
the introverts in my life,
Right.
all the introverts in my life are like, woohoo!
Exactly. Right.
I don't have to go to a mall ever again. Hell yeah, I'm in.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Kemi, one thing I wanted to say, it's a little bit of a left turn. It wasn't so much about 5 minutes ago, but I really want to say it because I think it's important to this conversation. I
yeah.
coached a lady a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago. She's the CEO of a women's clothing company that was actually like, it was like she was tired of men having the best clothes. So she kind of made like a tomboy clothing company, right? Super cool. She left
Wow.
Nike to start this company. Company's called Wildfang. And when she started and started telling people, she had all the people in her life that's like, that's a terrible idea. Like, why would you
Right.
leave Nike? Like, she has this
Right.
great job at Nike. Like, why would you leave and then try to be a competitor against them in some way? Like, not really, but Um,
Right.
and the whole talk ended up being about the premise of the reason why she made it and was successful was because there was some people in her life that were like, yeah, maybe. Then so she called them, yeah, maybe people. She said you should surround yourself with the people that would be willing to go down the path with you and say, yeah, maybe. What would it look like? As opposed to just like, no, that won't work. Because I think we were talking about this a couple minutes ago, is you could
Mhm.
make this work however you wanted to, Cami. There's probably like 10,000 ways this could work. And when you start
Mhm.
exploring it, if you look at it through the lens of, yeah, it could work, what would that look like? It's so different than, oh, it won't work because confidentiality, or like it won't
Right.
work because of this, or it won't work because it's not in the same building. Like when
Right.
you start saying, how can we do it instead of can we do it, that's a
Right.
different thing.
Right. I like that. I like that.
How can we do it? Not can we? Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to go back to that point because I think this is one of those ideas where, Kimmy, you have like a blank canvas and you can make it be whatever you want it to be. So
Right.
explore how you could do it.
Well, I think having experience starting my own business, like I'm very familiar with what you're saying,
Mm.
right? Very
Right?
familiar. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
Too
exactly.
familiar.
yeah,
You-
and I had a wide range of responses, right? Where some people said, go get a job, and some people said, great, do your own thing. So, yes, definitely, I can relate. I can relate,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
you know. I think the other thing also is that I can see my limitations also as a therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Meaning
Yeah.
because I can only impact people but so far,
Yeah.
right? So and I feel like they're whatever.
That's the
No,
part I love. Sorry, I love that. That's the heart and soul of it, I think, is that your heart is that you're telling people, I'm only going to take you this far, but
exactly.
but 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, if I'm doing this right, 7, right? Equals like
Right.
10,000
Right.
instead of like, I'm not a math teacher, Mark. I
I
was
got
trying
you.
to
I
get to the
got you.
7. I was like,
I got you. I
but
got you.
yeah, anyway, I love that, Kimmy. That
Mm.
the heart of this idea comes from that.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I think ultimately, you know, like I came from a place of struggle, like emotionally and mentally, and my passion is to see people overcome their challenge,
Mm.
right?
Mm,
Because I feel like people have so much to offer,
mm,
and they're limited by their experiences or things that happen in their life, and I like to see I had a client one time, real quick, where she was depressed for however long, right? And I said to her, "Do you have a picture of yourself when things were fine, like when things were good?" And she said, "Yeah." I was like, "Bring it to me next time." Right. So she brought me a picture and I said, "That's our goal to get you back to that person."
oh,
Right.
oh,
Right. No,
I
right.
love
So,
that.
right. Because the thing is this, right? We get like the worst versions of people sometimes because of what life has done. And we never know what the real person could be. Right.
Mm.
So my thing is I want to help you become the best version of Cathey or the best version of Mark. Right. And that way the world gets blessed as a result.
Oh, I love that.
That's
Mm,
beautiful.
it
That's
is.
beautiful. And it just goes along with because I just want to repeat what you also said earlier.
Yeah.
I can only impact people so far. I can
Right.
only, right? There's that vulnerability and that awareness that like I can't do it alone, or I cannot be your only resource, and I shouldn't be your only resource. And even the story you just told about that patient
Right.
also ties in with you
Mm.
can't do this alone, right? Like even as an individual,
Yep.
Right.
you need that former version of yourself. Can I tell you, man, you just warmed it up. I have nowhere near the amount of letters in my credentials as you do, Cammy.
Oh, come on.
But um, I also remember I had a student who was referred to me.
Hmm.
She used to be rock star on this team. She was in this AP class. I mean, this kid was rock star.
Hmm.
And she got into a slump. And I
Hmm.
remember a teacher sent her to my office, and it happened to be her. Oh, she had mentioned one of the projects that she was struggling with, something that would have been easy for her at one
Right.
point. And the
Hmm.
project was for her drama class. And
Hmm.
the project was she had to write and perform a monologue.
Mm.
I can't. I don't know. I can't. And I don't know what came over to me. Maybe Cammy was in my head way before I knew it. But I said to her, why don't you write a monologue?
Hmm.
Actually, I think it was supposed to be a dialogue between two characters. And I said, why not have it as a dialogue between the former version of yourself
Hmm.
who was on the team and in the top class and everything, and a
Hmm.
conversation with their current self?
Right.
And she
Cool.
did. She went on to write that monologue.
Hmm.
And,
That's
you
good.
know, you
That's
bring the
good.
pieces together. Wonder Powers. What is it?
Wonder Twin Powers activate. Mark and I have that. We always talk about that. Wonder Twin Powers activate. Yeah,
Oh my gosh. Oh,
that's
I
so
just,
good, Mark.
I love the
yeah.
theme of talking to not only consumers, but also this dream team
Yeah.
Hmm.
about this concept of we can do so much
Hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Individually, we can only do so much, but together, imagine what we can do. And for the consumers out there, for the people going through trauma,
Right.
they can't make it with just each of us alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
powerful.
That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow, I love I love where this conversation has went. Because at first, when we first started talking, for me, Cami, it was like I was trying to understand exactly what what you were thinking about with this idea, and then it became apparent to me that we were all just in it together, trying to figure out like how,
Right.
like what could it look like, and it kind of, I don't know. For me, it's an awesome conversation
Hmm.
that took a lot of different turns and stuff. I'd love to ask us all because I think this has been a really interesting episode where it's like there's a lot of different things that have come up. So, like Mark, I'm going to ask you first because I'm going to end with Cami. But what
Hmm.
what has been what are some things that stood out for you? And it could be anything because we went all over the map.
I think there are two particular things that really stand out to me. One is a piggyback off of what you just said. Um, I thought this was originally going to be about what it looks like. And what I've arrived at is why it looks like.
Oh,
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that's so powerful because it goes back to struggling to find other people to be a part of this.
Hmm.
And now that we understand the why it looks like, maybe that can attract people because the second thing that really stands out for me is this concept of community.
mm,
Hmm.
I can't
Yeah.
do
yeah,
it alone. No matter how good I am at what I
yep,
Right.
do,
Right.
I'm only a piece of the puzzle. People
Right.
need community. People are looking for community. You bring community.
Hmm.
yeah. Ooh, I'll say for me, Cami, well, first of all, your super kind heart, that the thing that gave me the chills when you said I can only take you so far, and
Right.
I don't know, I just really felt that, and that is to me that is the best foundation for this idea. It's that you
Mm,
have this heart
mm,
knowing like, hey, I can only help you so much. So that stood out for me. And then the other thing that really stood out, because we went in really wild places, had conversation on buses and coffee shops, even though none of us had
right.
coffee, and like all this stuff, right? And
Right.
talk to people that are on this side and talk to people on that side. But really what it all came back to me for, the second thing for me, was that it was a conversation about how can you do it, not can you do it.
Mm, right.
I always love that. So what about you, Kimmy?
Well, you know what? Okay, let me be transparent with you guys, right? So I think when we started, I said I think I had this idea came to me about 15, I want to say 15 years, I don't know, maybe even 20 years ago, right? And I had kind of put it on the shelf,
Hmm.
right? In the sense that I was like, eh, like way back in the back, right? So as I'm talking, it's like, oh my gosh, like this could really happen. You know what I mean? So definitely, I thank you guys for asking me questions that would force me to think about what this could be, or what, how this can actually play out, and even and giving feedback. So, because, like I said before, like the easy thing is that you can talk yourself out of a lot of things, in terms of why it can't work, as opposed to what you're saying in terms of how can we make it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even my daughter said to me, it was like last year. She said, "Dad, didn't you want to do something like that?" Because we were somewhere, and I said to myself, "Wow, I couldn't believe she remembered that." But my thought was, we'll see what happens. So
Yeah.
the second thing also that I got from it is putting the idea out, right?
Mm.
Because once again, it's easy to talk yourself out of so many things, and just getting feedback, hearing what people have to say, generating interest or conversation, and then making a plan. So it's I thank you guys for having me, because definitely you've energized me. you,
Mm.
you've energized me.
No, we're super excited about that. Well, Cami, if I love that that's what you got from it, and if there's people out there that would love to talk to you about this, whether that be from the consumer side of it or the professional services side, where can they find you?
Well, my website is kindcounseling.com. In terms of that, just gives you different ways to contact us. We're on Facebook as well as Instagram and TikTok as Kind Counseling.
Mm.
So TikTok is, I think, kind dot counseling. So somebody stole it from me, but but yes, that would be the easiest way to contact me, or our offices.
That's awesome. So if you're out there and you're watching and you think, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea, or I just want to talk to Cami about this idea, I'm sure he'd be open to that.
Yes.
And then you don't have to go to a coffee shop and try to not drink coffee and have this conversation with people. Um, but yeah, for anybody watching, if you're thinking, gosh, I have an idea that I would love to have this kind of conversation like they just had with Cami, just reach out to Mark and me. We have a website. It's about to go down show.com, and contact us there. Cami, thank you for being on.
Thank
This
you.
was awesome. And it went down this time. We always say this, it went down this time. It'll go down next time on the next episode of It's About to Go Down.
Damn.
Down, down. Like Brooklyn Tech
There
down.
you go. There you go. There you go.